It's time!
What's kicking, everybody? We are back for another episode of Pickin' Fights. I'm Keith, joined as always by my friend Tom. Tom, ¿qué pasa this evening? How you doing?
Doing good. I feel like shit though. Oh, we're not supposed to curse within the first 10 minutes. 10 whatever. Doesn't matter. Anyway.
Monetize.
You don't think I could have cleaned up the room a little bit, leaving the shopping bag right behind my left shoulder? I have to clean that up at some point. But no, feeling good. Off to a pretty good start. You're seeing 2024 records right there. You were 7-2 last week. I don't know what the math is on that, but that's over 70%, maybe 75%, or over that. Probably I'm gonna go 78.5% is probably what that equates to. I came in at a measly 6-3, so you're looking at 67% right there, 66.67. So not a bad first week into the UFC, especially with the main card being a women's fight, which are super unpredictable. But that being said, on to the first pay-per-view of the UFC 2025. I guess you could call it. 311. Makhachev Tsarukyan 2. Let's go.
Yeah, this is 2, right? Insane to think about. Arman Tsarukyan lost the last time around, but now he seems to be a little bit more evolved as a fighter. He's taken on some deeper or harder competition since then, and he's going a lot deeper against like really tough guys. Both of these guys have evolved quite a bit. I'm super pumped to talk about this one, but Tom, you mentioned not cursing in the first couple of minutes, right? And the only way that would affect us is if we were demonetized. And the only way that we could get demonetized is to get monetized. Right. And if you like us, and it's not even about the money for us, dude, we just want you to subscribe. So if you could please like, comment, and subscribe if you like our videos.
Good transition.
Watching right now, I see you watching. I see who's here. I see who's in the chat. Jump in the chat. Like, comment, and subscribe. We will talk to you, okay? We enjoy talking to the chat, and if you like, it's the least you can do. Subscribe. That takes it a step further, and if you chat with us, we'll chat back. Follow us on X and Instagram @_pickinwinners. Leave us a comment, whether it be after the video is done or while the chat's going. We love comments. I love to respond to comments. You remember like 2 years ago when we had all those Harry Hunsucker fans coming for us? That was
yeah.
Show. Jump in the comments if you love Harry Hunsucker. I don't think he's still in the UFC.
Not in the UFC. I don't know if he's fighting anymore. He's got probably found a home in some promotion, and I bet those fans are happy to watch him. If it wasn't Harry Hunsucker himself jumping in the comments, because maybe we were the only people talking about Harry Hunsucker. So he tracked us down, and I wouldn't be surprised if I got some hate mail in the mail or something.
Yeah. If my address was public, I would probably get a letter from Harry Hunsucker being like, yo, you said I wasn't a family man or something. It's like, dude, we said you were a family man. Oh, no. I mean, we just said you weren't going to win your fight. And his fans or whoever it was, it might have been him personally, took that very personally. But if you take any of our
Hunsuckers is what they're called, I think.
Yeah, well, in the real world, they're just suckers. If you
Hunsucker, that's like a wife fucker.
Yeah, it sounds like it, or like Hunsucker. That's like, you know how last names go back like hundreds of years? It's like they probably named their family that, like their great-great-great-great-grandfather after like a battle with the Attila the Hun. And they were like, yo, the only way he lived was being a Hunsucker. And that's how his bloodline got to carry on.
Yeah.
He sucked Huns, and so he got to keep going. I'm sorry, Harry Hunsucker, if you really are out there watching this right now and getting upset in the comments.
He was the one. He's the one. He's why he jumped out, and he's like, "Oh, well, yeah, I'm not." I thought I'd give these guys another chance, and 2 years later, they're still talking about it. Fuck these guys.
Shit about me, yo. And it's crazy because that's like we've talked about plenty of fighters that have just kind of like faded into oblivion, and we forget, right? Like, eventually Ihor Poteri is going to be that guy, and we're going to forget all the stupid things that he's done and all the. It's not like years from now we're going to be talking about Ihor Poteri because he didn't jump in with his burner accounts and tell his like wife and kids to like comment on our stuff. Ihor
it's a marketing strategy.
Yeah, he just kept going, and it's just he just keeps fighting. He just keeps doing his thing. Harry Hunsucker, on the other hand, I don't know, but. With all that being said, like, comment, subscribe. So and hit the bell next to the subscribe button. That goes a long way. That'll tell you when we're going live. And then if you like our content, you jump in the chat with us. And, especially like some of our friends from over the years, like Joe and Adam and Sean and Connor and all these guys, they jump back in, they let us know what's up. If you want to be involved with them, comment. It's that easy, and you can be part of the Pick and Fights family. All right. UFC, what is this, 311?
311, we're getting up there in Los Angeles, oddly enough. So I haven't heard anything about it being relocated or anything like that, but
it's not going to, because the arena in which it's taking place, they moved a couple of the LA Clipper games. I think it's the NVIDIA arena. I could be wrong. What does it say on there? It should say it. I can't see it. It's a little.
It says, the Intuit Dome.
Intuit, yes, the Intuit Dome. It's a brand new venue. Apparently, it was built to be fireproof. They moved a couple of LA Clipper games, but they're staying strong with having the UFC there. And you think about the entire operation that comes with the UFC. You have all these fighters flying in from all over the world, and all these coaches and staff. I mean, who did we just see getting kicked off a plane the other day on his way to UFC 311? But Habib Nurmagomedov was told that he didn't understand English well enough to be in the emergency exit and was kicked off the plane by FAA regulations. The guy speaks English. This is number one bullshit, brother.
This is number one bullshit.
I kind of quote by Khabib. I'm surprised he can break that out on that white flight attendant. Telling him he was too Russian. I understand English. I will know what you're saying. But yeah, it's so you see everybody flying out to LA for this, and I'm surprised they're like LAX is even open.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's not necessarily like that the building is like fire retardant. It's that so you're gonna have people go to LA if they're not from LA that's currently on fire for it just seems like a bad omen kind of thing where there's plenty of arenas that are probably in the immediate vicinity of California. Like you could have easily flipped it back to Vegas, probably. You never know what's booked and what isn't booked, but I feel like maybe the UFC could have found a different venue close by, and who knows, maybe they tried to and they couldn't, so they're like, yeah, we're gonna stay strong because they didn't have another card to play. I don't know, but we'll see what happens as time goes on. It is Tuesday night at 6:30, so I still don't know if they have the flames under control, if they are able to stop it, or there's a ton of stuff. So, we'll see what happens if they end up moving it, canceling it, or what. But we're going to talk about it at this time as if it's happening. And, I guess you could say, prayers out to anybody affected by the fires, of course, whether it was started by people, it's climate change, it's Mother Nature, it's faulty government, it's Gavin Newsom himself. Whatever the case may be, obviously hearts, thoughts, and prayers go out to all those affected who lost their homes, especially the people who, they saw their house that they could rent for $19,000 a month get surge priced up to $70,000 a month. I mean, that's an incredible price to pay. I wish I could pay $19,000 a month for a rental space. I think that's, I think it ends up being ultimately not that it's not sad, but it ends up being a tough case to present when you're saying, oh my God, I'm expected to pay $70,000 a month, not $20,000. There's just not a ton of people in the world who that's going to fall on and be well received, because people pay, $20,000. They don't have $20,000 to put down as a down payment on a house, let alone pay that a month and then worry about you being surge priced or price gouged up to $70,000 a month. It's a hard case to make, but for all the people who obviously lost stuff, that's terrible. All in the vision of this Los Angeles 2028, so they can make it a smart city that has a lot more potentially rumor, conspiracy theory had, even though not really, because they said this is what they're going to do. Here's our plan for Smart LA 2028. It literally was a plan that's put out into the public domain, where they want to have a lot more of, you could just equate it a little bit to a Chinese city, in the sense that they have a ton of surveillance, potential for overreach. And I think it's a lot harder to create that when there's pre-existing things. And, you know, we don't have to talk about Maui. I'm going down the line, but the moral of this entire story, that's all speculation, is hearts go out to those who have been poorly affected, including all the celebrities who have millions and millions of dollars of, you know, prized possessions that I'm sure they're broken up about. And, you know, and definitely this is something that couldn't have been predicted, even though that the insurance companies pulled out of their fire insurance plans 2 months prior. No one could have possibly predicted this. So it's just a terrible tragedy.
Yes. T's and P's, baby. Thoughts and prayers. I'm a devout Christian myself, and so in my nightly prayer, I have included the people of California because there are a lot of good people there. It's their government that motherfucked this to high heaven. Yeah, it's just a horrible, horrible tragedy caused by fucking morons. And there's deeper, darker words that you could use to describe the people in charge, whether it be Gavin Newscum or the fire chief and all them that say like, oh well, if you're a man and you're in this position, then that's your fault. There, yeah, look it up. If you don't believe me, look it up.
Somebody said, they were like, yeah, she's 100% right, because if you're a man and you find yourself in a position to where she's saving you, that means you're located in LA and you're in a place where you should be.
That's going to be numero uno, right? You're going to see the populations of Texas and Nevada, but Texas in particular, the populations are they're gonna skyrocket in cities like Austin, where people have already been fleeing LA.
California was the #1 state fleed from, I think, in 2024.
Oh, it goes California, then New York, and it's not just 2024. It's the past 5 years now. We're looking at 2025, and it's since COVID, because their governments have totally mismanaged everything in those states and those major cities, and they've made it almost practically unlivable, to the point where you're talking about $17,000 a month rent. And
it's unlivable in the most gorgeous place in the country. Like, it takes a lot to make California unlivable because it's so gorgeous there. There's so much, you know, to do, and so many different types of climates, and it's just so temperate in most places. Like, you know, it really takes a lot to not want to live in California. It's a shame, and I hope California gets better, because I would love to be able to go to California and not be, you know, I don't know if you would say concerned per se, but it would be great if California was an option for people to go, because it's big and it's beautiful, and you know, it could do a lot for America if their economy, you know, had, you know, if people could flourish there. It would attract people from all over the world. It would attract businesses from all over the world, and it would make America even stronger. So I want to see California succeed, but it's hard with these conditions.
I want to say, I believe that California has, like, out of all the nations in the world, I want to say that California has a top 10 GDP as it is, in terms of just like the factories and like all the things that they produce and the money that they spend and how expensive it is to live there. It is one of the top 10 GDPs in the world out of all the nations. I want to say California is like number 5. It's not going to be there for much longer. They've totally fucked up that state. And if you're fed up, don't come here to New York. It's not much better. But also, if you are going to relocate to one of these states where things are better for you, whether it be tax-wise, government-wise, whatever, this is a message to all 0 people watching this live right now. Don't move to a state where it's ideal for you and fuck it up like with the place where you came from. If you hate California because of the people that are in charge, don't vote more of those people into office. Now, this isn't a political show. One of the points that I was going to make prior to we getting into that is that even if the UFC is unable to find a venue, and they have to give a lot of people money back because they've already bought tickets for this, and I think that people are already probably refunding, reselling tickets. I don't think that we're not breaking any gates this week. We're not breaking any gates, despite how great this card is. It's going to be a disaster because of Los Angeles. You're going to see a lot of empty seats. The UFC does now have one ultimate cop-out and one place to go to, and that is the Apex. I wouldn't be surprised because of how close Nevada and Los Angeles are. Like, what is it, an hour and a half flight from LA to Nevada?
Something like that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if you saw this card relocated even the last minute, even the day of, to the Apex, because Vegas isn't on fire, literally speaking, and they have their own arena there. You know, you're not going to get the amount of people that you would, and you're going to have to refund tickets. But I feel
Free booking.
like this, it's almost better to take the L at a free booking at the famed. Wow. Yeah. I mean, they could go to Vegas. They really could go to Vegas. We'll move it to Vegas if it gets too bad. But as of right now, I didn't see the rest of the quote, but yeah, we'll move it to Vegas if it gets too bad. And as of right now, we're going to go. So that's that. I mean, but they do have the best cop outs, the Apex, and then you have T-Mobile Arena where they have a free booking, because I think the Vegas Knights are out of town this weekend.
There you go.
So it all works out. This fight's going to take place. It would be insane. I mean, these fights are going to take place. It would be insane.
Maybe just not in LA, but we'll see.
Yeah, I could totally see that being the case. And if you're mad about this, and if you're mad at us for talking about it, the last point that I'll make is look at your local government for not clearing out the brush. This was warned about years ago. The brush is too much. And now it's going to be a massive overreach the next time that people are allowed to live in Los Angeles and California again, the people that had their houses burned down, if they don't turn the whole state into an apartment complex. You're not going to see palm trees. You're not going to see evergreens. You're not going to see any sort of tree, shrubbery, brush, or anything in people's yards. You're going to have rock yards, right? Like, we all know, like, that one family that has like rock and cement everywhere. That's going to be the whole state of Los Angeles. It's so beautiful, and it's never going to look like that again. And these people have totally fucked it up. And if you hate it and you're upset about it, vote differently. Get that fucking new scum out of office. And by the way, who in California continuously reelects Nancy Pelosi? I mean,
who's voting for her?
Yeah, I mean, who the fuck keeps letting that bitch go back to government and make decisions for you? And that should say enough about California as it is. If you hate it there and you live there, get out and vote. Otherwise, shut the fuck up, move, and don't fuck places up the way that you did California. With all that being said, we've got a very exciting card this week. I know Tom and I go, hey, we're going to be out of here by 7, and then we spend fucking 20 minutes talking about California and how fucked up it is. We do have a very exciting card for you this week. Hopefully that ends up being the majority of our talking. If not, and we split 20 and 20 about California and about Islam Makachev versus Arman Tsarukyan too, and the rest of 311, it's not the end of the world, because we used our platform to make a difference. So
hopefully for the better.
Yeah, hopefully for the better. So California, you fucked up. Get better next time, I guess, after it's all built up, or suffer again. We're in notables. We got anything you want to talk about, Tom? I know we had a couple we discussed pre-show.
Yeah, well, number one, I want to talk about Ricky Tercios here. My plus 280. He's a guy I just have zero confidence in. I know that Sopaj is off of a loss 10 months ago by flying knee. He looked pretty good prior to that. Only lost outside of the UFC by split decision a little over 4 years ago, or a little under 4 years ago, should I say. Inside of the UFC, he got. Actually, that was his first loss inside of the UFC, first, debut. I like some of his fights leading up to that. He's young, and we've seen a lot of people get off to a slow start in the UFC, but then go on, to have a successful career. And I kind of think the opposite about Ricky Tercios. Outside of the UFC, he was on The Ultimate Fighter, is 1-2 over his last 3. Split decision was the win. Just very tentative in that win. I don't know if he's going to be super tentative now. He's 31 years old. He just doesn't. There's nothing about him that excites me. So even at 355, give me the winless inside of the UFC, Bernardo Sopaj, and a lot of Tapology is with me on that one. You have anything to add with that?
Yeah, no, I'm going to go against Ricky Tercios here. Like you said, nothing that excites me except his personality. I do like the anime personality, and I like that he's very animated and he's very into Dragon Ball Z and things like that. It takes me back to my childhood. However, every time I'm reminded of how old he is, I'm shocked because you're like 32 and you're still doing like Dragon Ball Z celebrations and stuff after a victory. But yeah, I think Sopaj, he got the brunt of it in his UFC debut, and typically fighters don't do well their first time out. The bright lights, the show, and we've seen guys go against Ricky Tercios in the past, Raul Rosas being one that comes to mind, that maybe didn't do well early into his UFC career and then come out and make Ricky Tercios not look great. And it's the opposite of C-Rod last week. We both had C-Rod. C-Rod's a guy that does very well against young, new UFC prospects. Ricky Tercios is not. And so for that reason, I'm going to go with Sopaj to get the win. Sopaj, I like the guy a lot. Give me Sopaj. What do you got next? You got another one?
Yes, I do. We got Jailton Almeida taking on Sergey Spivak. I'm going with Jailton. I'm, a heavy favorite. A lot of these prelims are heavy favorites. I'm hoping to parlay because I feel really, really good about them. And, you may not be agreeing with me here, but I just think Jailton Almeida has been fairly dominant in every single fight that we've seen him in, -1. And it's this one here against Curtis Blades, in which he got knocked out by hammer fists. I don't see Sergey Spivak as quite the knockout threat and the one punch, kind of put it away kind of threat that Curtis Blades. Well, I realize who I'm talking about with Curtis Blades. He does throw heavy hands and he does have good grappling, but I just think Jailton Almeida, was maybe a little bit caught off guard in that fight against Curtis Blades. I don't think Sergey Spivak has a grappling level similar to Jailton Almeida, and I know Sergey's. I feel like I'm making an opposite case, to be honest, as I'm going through, but just stay with me. I think Sergey Spivak, even though grappling is a strong point of his stand-up game is not very advanced. He has the knockout over Greg Hardy, which I don't know if I count. Knockout over Augusto Sakai, which I don't know if I count. A submission over Derek Lewis, which Derek, I think, kind of gave that to him at that point, just kind of tapped out of the fight. And, Jailton Almeida is very strong on the ground, especially against light heavyweights and heavyweights alike. Cyril Gane, he got the loss of Cyril Gane, and I honestly don't rate Cyril Gane that high. I think he's just a little bit more athletic, or far more athletic than a lot of guys in the heavyweight division, and he wins because of it. I don't think he's a phenomenal athlete. I don't think his jiu-jitsu is as crisp or as clean as Jailton Almeida's is, and so I like Jailton if it goes to the ground, and I also like Jailton's power. Jailton is a big guy. He's 6'3". He's giving up nothing in size to Sergey Spivak here. And Spivak, I believe, is a guy who used to be a lot lighter and is adding, size to him. Jailton Almeida is absolutely jacked, and he's going to be heavier, so he's going to be stronger. He's going to be better hydrated. He's going to be the same size. I think he has a crispier submission, and he's got more of a devastating knockout blow. I don't want to let his one loss to Curtis Blades overly influence my opinion of Jailton Almeida, because the fact is he's been simply dominant in basically every other fight. Shamil Abdurrahimov, Jairzinho Rozenstruik by submission, Derek Lewis knockout, or won a decision victory against him, and he gets a lot of negativity for these two fights right here, going to the decision with Derek Lewis, especially towards the end, and Curtis Blades knockout. Because Derek Lewis doesn't go to a lot of decisions, so people just assume and they say that that's bad on Jailton Almeida, and he was pretty lackluster in that fight. He just held Derek Lewis down, but at that point, Derek Lewis had knocked out a lot of people. He still has. He's holding a knockout record. He didn't want to overcompensate and find himself on the bad side of a Derek Lewis knockout. So I've rambled for a while here, but point is, I'm going with Jailton Almeida. I think he's better in every area. I think he's just as big. And even though he's 4 years older, I think he's just got that certain thing that's going to get it done.
Plus 310, give me Sergey Spivak. This guy, time and time again, has gone and submitted and knocked out people that nobody expected him to. Even when we were talking about the Greg Hardy knockout, this was like the fight back a couple of years ago that we thought that Greg Hardy was going to bounce back, because Sergey Spivak, it's like he's one of those guys that we always look at him and we're like, he's shown us nothing. And yet he has, because time and time again, he goes out there and he finishes guys that he shouldn't necessarily finish. Augusto Sakai, to knock him out when Augusto Sakai was hailed as a pretty good striker. at that point, a guy that you don't want to get his back against the fence because he's going to throw that Hail Mary at you and knock you out. Sergey Spivak nullified that Hail Mary and got the win. He's gotten wins over plenty of guys that we doubted him for. He's gotten Peruvian neckties and he's gotten wild submissions in the past. And I think it's about time that people stop sleeping on Sergey Spivak. Maybe he doesn't get the win here, and maybe Vegas is right in having Jailton Almeida as a minus 400 favorite. But we got to keep in mind that the Curtis Blades win for Jailton Almeida was after Jailton Almeida had him in a position where he should have won the fight, and Curtis Blades turned around and snuck up and finished him. Sergey Spivak is a sneaky guy. I like to call him Sneaky Spivak. That's what we call him, Sneaky Spivak. That's his new nickname. He's not Sleepy Spivak. He's sneaky. He's a sneaky guy, and he'll sneak up on you, and he'll make something happen. And so for that reason, I think that Jailton Almeida is a guy who you take Derek Lewis 3 rounds and you don't finish him. Derek Lewis is finish or be finished, and to take him to decision does not say a lot to me. I think that he's a guy he's going to get a little content in certain situations, and you're going to have Sneaky Spivak come around and get a submission. He's going to do it. The guy does it. He gets submissions. He gets knockouts. And that's why in the White House we call him Sneaky Spivak. Sorry, I like to.
The impression of Gillis doing Trump is getting.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's not a Trump impression. It's other people doing Trump. And so it's, it's a very cartoon characterized version of that. But I'm going with Sergey Spivak. I think that he could pull something sneaky off here, and don't be surprised if he does. And that 300 line, that plus 310, that's enough to get me excited about the guy because he should not be a plus 310. I think that this fight should be closer to like plus 250 for Almeida, plus 200 for Spivak. That's where that line lies for me. And at plus 310, that makes it a little juicy. We got another one we got to talk about, and that's Peyton Talbot versus Ione Barcelos.
You like 310. How do you feel about 775?
Don't love it. This is where Vegas goes, okay, it's too skewed in one way where we're not going to make any money at all. That Spivak line, it's like it draws you in a little bit. Maybe I'm falling trap to it because there are things as trap lines. This is not a trap line. Peyton Talbot's going to go out there and kick the shit out of Ione Barcelos. Guy that we've talked about plenty of times, has fought great competition. And yeah, he's done it. He's been in there with some of the best guys. And maybe he hasn't beat them, but he's got experience in the UFC as opposed to Peyton Talbot, who doesn't have a lot of experience in the UFC, and yet looks like he does. Goes out there, one punch KO. Who was that guy the last time around? The Israeli guy that he embarrassed? Yeah, Giannis Gamori. That was a guy who had a couple of fights in the UFC. Ione Barcelos has quite a bit more, but Peyton Talbot is the next man up. He's the next star. He's hanging out with guys like Frank Ocean. He's calling out people like Andrew Tate, and he's not even intentionally becoming a social media star. It's just kind of the trajectory that he's on. And as long as he keeps winning, that trajectory continues. And I think that you see a future star in the making. He's perfect. Gen Z. I believe he's a Gen Z guy. He's a couple of years younger than us now, which is weird because when we started the show, pretty much every fighter was like a year or two older than us. And now we're witnessing guys that are 17, 18 years old come up and make a name for themselves in the UFC. And it's odd. It is a little odd. Even this kid, I think he's like 21, 22.
No, he's older than he's 26.
Oh, 26. So he is about my age. And, he's hanging out with all these celebrities I want to hang out with, and he's doing his thing, and I think that the ceiling is the roof for Peyton Talbot. Great all-around fighter. Probably going to have a belt wrapped around his waist. He's going to have a belt wrapped around his waist someday. He's going to have a belt wrapped around his waist someday. He's going to be a champion. As long as like the Corey Sandhagens, the Umars, and the Marabs of the world are gone, the guy's going to keep doing what he's doing. And, we watch fighters reach their peak around 30 years old. At 26, he's still doing his thing. And I think 4 years' time, you will see a champion Peyton Talbot, emo kid, painted black nails, and listens to weird music and wants to be like a social activist. But this is who we're seeing now. This is going to be your Gen Z champ, is Peyton Talbot. So enjoy. He's going to get the win this week, and it's going to further, it's going to further advance his trajectory towards that belt. So enjoy the fight, because Peyton Talbot's going to get a finish, and it's going to be something to watch. What do you think? You right there with me?
Yeah, no, I have nothing else to add. Last prelim notable is Bogdan Guskov taking on Billy Elikana, UFC newcomer. Billy Elikana last 5 is 4-1. Look at some of this competition outside of the UFC. Was in the PFL, got a couple of wins over there, split decision, got a knockout on Lights Out against a guy who's 4-0 to get into the UFC. He's 29 years old, also 4-1 over his last 5, but knockouts over Ryan Spann and Zach Pauga. Lost via submission to Volkan Ozdemir, but a couple other UFC fights, a couple other wins here. I like Bogdan Guskov to get this one done. Rough early UFC welcome, but after that he looked pretty good, and against a newcomer who traditionally has not a lot of success on their first UFC fight, give me Guskov.
Yeah, it's funny because in 2023, we saw that the trend was for UFC fighters making their debut. It really wasn't great in 22, 23. 24 kind of changed that around, where you had guys like Peyton Talbot getting into the UFC and really making a name for themselves. Bogdan Guskov is a guy who he caught the brunt end of the stick his first fight in the UFC, going up against Volkan Ozdemir, but a guy who's making his debut. I think that Bogdan is going to get the win here. The lights are going to be too bright. And he's also given us some pretty incredible highlights so far. He could take one. His chin is incredible. And guess what? If he takes one, he's giving you one right back. Ground game solid. Hands are solid. Give me Bogdan Guskov. I like the pick.
Oh, yeah.
What else?
Well, that is all we had on the prelims. Pop it up to the main card.
Yes, sir. Let's do it. Boom, bop, boop, bop, bop, ba, 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 ba. All right. Kevin Holland versus Reiner de Ridder. I have a little bit of personal bias going into this one because I'm a big RDR fan. He's Dutch, I'm Dutch, and he was the guy over at ONE FC for quite some time until he lost both of his belts to the same guy in 2 separate weight classes. He's very complete. He fought Gerald Meerschaert in his last time around and in his UFC debut, and I believe he finished him, right? Did he finish GM3? Mm-hmm. Yes, with a submission, and that's very difficult to do against a guy like GM3, who's a jiu-jitsu black belt, and even Hamzat didn't want to take him to the ground, and that's not saying a lot because Hamzat did knock him out in 10 seconds, caught him on the chin, but GM3 is a hard guy to submit. RDR is very complete. He's one of these guys that for years and years who've been like, what's going to happen when he makes his way to the UFC? We saw it happen against GM3, and I think that this week against Kevin Holland, while Kevin Holland is going to have some success with his striking, he's going to be stepping back quite a bit, creating distance between him and RDR. He's going to be throwing those body kicks and push kicks and really just create space. That's going to be the game plan for Kevin Holland this week, I believe, personally, between him and RDR. RDR has really good striking, though. He's really good at closing the distance. He's got nasty overhands. He's dropped guys with his overhands before, especially when he fakes that takedown first. And it's going to be a scenario in my mind. And even though this line is a little skewed, right? You have Kevin Holland being the favorite as opposed to RDR as almost plus 200 underdog. I think that you're going to see a Reiner de Ridder win here this week. I think it's going to be very much like the MVP fight for Kevin Holland, where here's a new guy to the UFC. He brings an entirely different skill set. He brings a different package. Kevin Holland doesn't say no to fights, even though Reiner de Ridder, I think what he's going to be looking to do and what I think he's ultimately going to do is take Kevin Holland down, flip him over onto his belly, and I think he's going to choke Kevin Holland out. I think that he's going to look to take away any time that Kevin Holland brings up that post arm to try and stand back up. I think he's going to sweep that post arm out, and eventually it's going to lead to RDR choking out Kevin Holland. There's new guys that get to the UFC and they present like a whole different skill set. Like I mentioned that MVP fight, and Kevin Holland is the type of guy that, like, if he's winning a fight or if he's at least competitive, he'll keep fighting. But when things aren't going his way, he does kind of give up. And not necessarily where it's like, oh, he's totally out of the fight. Like we saw it against Jacare Souza, where this is going back years ago, but like Jacare, he knocked Jacare out off of his back with hammer fists. And he just saw the opportunity there after being dominated with the wrestling and the jiu-jitsu. I think that this time around, you're going to see RDR really close the distance, take him down, choke him out. Maybe if it goes to round 2, round 3, well, I think that maybe that'll be in round 2 that happens. I think that maybe round 1 we see some Kevin Holland success. Then going into round 3 after RDR is dominating on the ground, I think that we're going to see Kevin Holland say something to his corner along the lines of like, I can't find him or I can't do this, and then it's going to be very clear that RDR gets the win round 2 and 3. Maybe he doesn't finish him. Kevin Holland does really have good defensive jiu-jitsu. He's really good with his legs, and he's really good at posting up with the hips. But I think that we're going to see an RDR win, and that's not just bias. But Kevin Holland, as good as he is, does tend to lose against new talent. And that's kind of the story of his career. He doesn't say no to a fight, but he does lose to new talent. So I'm going to go with RDR here to get the win over Kevin Holland. Striking's good enough. Grappling's good enough. Even if it doesn't get finished, I think that he'll find enough success with his grappling to get the decision victory. So I'm going with Reiner de Ritter here to make a name for himself in the UFC. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, I mean, he got GM3, which is not a name in his first fight, but I had to go back and look at it, and he lost his heavyweight belt and his light heavyweight belt in one championship, and now he's fighting at 185 here in the UFC. I bet that has to maybe to do something with the hydration test, maybe not, but he's going to be a guy who's going to have a lot more strength and mass to him than Kevin Holland. And he's also got a better grappling, like wrestling base, whereas Kevin Holland's a little bit more into the BJJ. You can see it there, Travis Lutter, BJJ. And we haven't seen Kevin Holland really knock someone out. We know he's got power. We know he's got good striking, but I just think RDR is a little bit too experienced to fall for that. And I think we're going to see RDR, like you said, take him down. And, we see Kevin Holland be great sometimes, but we don't always see him fight back from adversity too well. So I think we're going to see RDR get this one done. Another interesting bout up here on the main card. Benny Dariush taking on Renato Moicano. Money Moicano. I didn't realize Benil Dariush's nickname is Benny. I don't know if that's official or not on a 2-fight losing streak here. 3-2 over his last 5. He has the split decision win over Diego Ferreira. We talked about that a little bit earlier. Tony Ferguson and Mateusz Gamrot. Gamrot really being the only fight that sticks out as impressive there. Losses to Charles Oliveira and Arman Tsarukyan. I think Renato Moicano was like, and I mean this in the best way possible, but like discount Charles Oliveira. And he's got a very similar game. He does have a little bit, I don't want to, not better jiu-jitsu, but there's a little bit more of a disparity between his striking and his jiu-jitsu, whereas Charles Oliveira's striking, he can knock you out pretty quickly, and he can knock out a lot of people. I think Renato Moicano has less of an ability to knock you out, but just as much of an ability to ground and pound and win a submission. I also think he's got maybe a little bit more of a chin than Oliveira, you could say. And for that reason, I like Renato Moicano in this one. They're both about the same age, which is crazy because Benil looks old and Money Moicano looks young. He wants the money fight. This is a money fight. I've picked against Renato Moicano before, and he's made me regret it against Benoit Saint Denis. And that was an eye injury, but granted, he went in there, he got it done, and the eye injury was because he punched or elbowed Benoit Saint Denis in the head so hard that he was gushing blood, and the doctor had to stop it. So that being said, it was a little bit more of a competitive second round, but Renato Moicano got it done, and his striking looks really good, and he's got sharp elbows, and Benil is not one to not get hit. He definitely gets hit, so give me Money Moicano to get this one done, potentially even here by finish, because he's on a roll, and I don't think people get stopped when they're on the roll. Jalen Turner, decision over Drew Dober. Look at him, look at the boy go.
Yeah, the one against Jalen Turner was weird because Jalen Turner thought he had that walk-off KO, and and then Renato Moicano came back and ground and pounded the shit out of him. Like, that was a weird fight.
So he's like the opposite of Kevin Holland in some ways.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes. I'm going to go, I hate to say it, I'm going to go with Renato Moicano over Beneil Dariush. He's got the chin, he's got the hands, he's got the submission game. I don't think it's going to end in finish. I just think that you're going to see Beneil Dariush get battered a little bit more and retreat a little bit more, and I think that's going to reflect negatively on the judges' scorecards. Renato Moicano, he says that he needs money, and what's the best way to get money, especially after you've had a new kid, is to make your way up through the rankings. This is a money fight. Beneil Dariush is not nobody. Unfortunately, though, in this point in his career, he is falling off. And I think that Renato Moicano, the trajectory, it's he just keeps going up and up. And I think that fight against Beneil, that's a big way to elevate yourself into potential title talks, considering who Beneil Dariush was up until maybe like a year and a half ago. Beneil Dariush was a perennial title contender. And we can't forget that. He really could have been champ in between Khabib and Islam. He really could have been. I think that there's a world in which, like, if he would have fought Charles Oliveira going into that Chandler fight, that, like, if it was Beneil versus Chandler, I think that Beneil could have won that. Anyways, I'm going with Renato Moicano. I know you're on a timeline, so we'll bust through these last couple. We got Yuri Prochazka versus Jamal Hill. I'm going with Yuri Prochazka by round 3 TKO. Reason being, he's going to be too much for Jamal Hill. There's going to be too much strategy. It's going to be too much weird stuff. This is a fight that Jamal Hill hasn't seen before. Yes, Jamal Hill was the champ, and he had a war with Glover Teixeira, but he was also thrust into that position. Yuri Prochazka, in my opinion, has earned his title shots time and time again. And I think that he's going to do it again this week against Jamal Hill. I think that he's going to sneak him with something nasty, right? We've already seen this once. Make your excuses, Jamal Hill. All the excuses that you want. The kick gets batted down. Herb Dean back off. What knocks out Jamal Hill but that uppercut that comes from the waist? And what does Yuri Prochazka do? He throws from the waist. Jamal Hill has shown now, after that fight against Alex Pereira, that he does not see things coming from down low. He saw them coming from Glover Teixeira because Glover Teixeira was a traditional boxer. Yuri Prochazka
slow as molasses and 40 years old.
Yes, and Yuri Prochazka is anything but traditional, and he's also not slow. And I think that you're going to see things firing from the hip, lots of like weird punches from range that are going to throw Jamal Hill's rhythm off. They're going to mess with his vision. And I think that Yuri Prochazka it's just going to be a volume of damage, and over 3 rounds, he's going to eventually find that shot that puts out Jamal Hill. So I'm going with Yuri Prochazka here by 3rd round TKO. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you. 4-1 over his last 5, but Jimmy Crute, Johnny Walker, Thiago Santos, and Glover Teixeira leaves a lot to be desired in terms of level of competition, especially when you're compared to Yuri Prochazka, who's literally only lost to Alex Pereira. Granted, he was knocked out twice, but hey, it's Alex Pereira, so was Jamal Hill. And he probably would have been had that weird stoppage thing not happened. But the reality is he said that he was off guard. Herb Dean said, continue to fight. They took a step forward, took a step back, and then it happened. So they made a couple fighting moves. I'm not claiming to say that maybe he was locked in. It was an odd situation, but to say that he was totally caught off guard by it, I think is a little bit of a stretch here. I think Yuri Prochazka is able to take a lot of damage from anyone not named Alex Pereira. And, I know Jamal's probably going to land on him because Yuri Prochazka does get hit. But I just think Yuri, like you said, is going to move a little bit too much. But you know what? Actually, all that being said, I'm going with Jamal Hill. I just changed it up on myself right here because I think Jamal Hill has a vengeance to pay. And I think he's been training like crazy. And this is a little bit, of a prediction and maybe making it up a little bit. Maybe I'm lying, but I think Jamal Hill, seeing how seething he's been and how willing to fight with anyone on Twitter he will be, I think he's training like a madman. I think he's going to go out there and try to get what he's owed. I think he's going to fight angry. And for him, it matters to work. I always thought Jamal Hill fought angry, and I always thought it was going to bite him in the ass. But I think it's quite possible because we've seen Yuri Prochazka knocked out twice now. And granted, it was against somebody who's a big knockout puncher. But even though it's not against the best competition, Jamal Hill is just that, a knockout puncher, and he puts people to sleep. And if you're not named Alex Pereira, he's been on a long streak of doing that since inside of the UFC. You're Prochazka, we've seen him falter, and we know that he's a risk taker. I think Jamal Hill is going to go out there, fight hard. I don't think he's going to let himself get knocked out. I don't think he's going to be down on himself. I think he's going to go out there, swing heavy, and I think he's going to probably win this one. I just had to change your heart right there in the moment. But, 67%, I'm in the minority. But, hey, I hope I don't look dumb, but I'm going with I'm going with Jamal Hill here.
Yeah, Jamal Hill, in my opinion, he's bitch made, and like that whole thing about him going up to Alex Pereira in the Apex and then not wanting to fight him there, that was bitch made. And I think that it's just going to lead to Jamal Hill, like years from now, he's going to be a meme. He's going to be a meme of him talking all this shit about everybody that he ever wanted to fight and these top ranked guys, and it's going to be him getting finished. It's going to be a meme of him on his
maybe.
Yeah, I just think we've seen this.
This is the fight that determines it, right? But if he goes out there and he knocks out Yuri Prochazka, total different trajectory. You know what I mean? Then it's like, okay, he is a fucking dude, right?
Yeah, he's a title shot at that point, and like it does correct a lot of the wrongs over his career. But then you look at the layoff, and it's been quite some time since he fought Alex Pereira, as opposed to Yuri, who's a slightly more active. But then even then, like just the activity for Yuri is better. I just think that you're going to see. We'll see. I'm going with Yuri. You're going with Jamal. What do we got next? We got Merab Dvalishvili versus Umar Nurmagomedov. I'm going with Umar Nurmagomedov because Merab didn't show me anything in any of his fights ever that led me to think that he was going to beat Umar. I think this is going to be a 5-round decision no matter what, and I think that if you're a really smart guy, depending on how the lines look, you bet this one to go the distance. I think that's numero uno. This fight goes 5 rounds, and I think that ultimately you see Umar Nurmagomedov. The wrestling reversals are going to be too much. His reversals are great. His striking game is way better than Merab, like by a million, and I think that you're going to see him land more devastating blows on Merab coming from Umar. His taekwondo is nasty. His spinning kicks, his axe kick, and we're going to be talking about axe kicks in a little bit because Arman really likes to throw them. But you're just going to see him mix it up so much more, and Merab does not have the stand-up game to keep up with him, and this is under Nurmagomedov that we're talking about. The wrestling is also going to be far too much for him. Maybe Merab will shoot his takedowns and land his takedowns, but I think that even when this goes to the ground, you're going to see Umar finding himself. Even if the ground game was initiated by Merab, you're going to find Umar in the dominant position, eating out more clock, landing more ground and pound, threatening more submissions, the way that he has done against just about everybody that he's fought up until now. And sure, Merab has done that, but like Merab takes you to the ground, then what does Merab do? He kisses your forehead and makes jokes, and Umar is looking for a finish, and Umar is beating the snot out of you. And I'm going with Umar Nurmagomedov to get this, and then probably hold this belt for a long time. That's my pick, Umar all the way. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm really divided because I think this one is going to go to decision. You got those knockouts over Raoni Barcelos, 18-0 for Umar, 18-4 for Merab. The thing is, you got to remember, Merab has crazy cardio that allows him to just go so long in the fight. And he doesn't give up, and nobody has the matched cardio of this guy that he's managed to acquire somehow after, puberty and sometime well into his 20s. He just got this like amazing cardio from going to Sarah BJJ. So I think Merab Dvalishvili can always get it done. I think there's probably a strong chance that he wins the 5th round and potentially the 4th round. I think exactly what you said is true, that Umar is probably going to land the more devastating shots, but I don't know if he's going to get many opportunities to do that because against Merab, who's a madman, endless cardio, it is just going to take him, put him up against the fence, and have him in a position where he's not really able to fire a lot of offense. He's going to be defending takedowns the whole time. He may get some reversals, and then Merab, maybe could get up. We've never really seen Merab get held down too much. So I know it's plus 260, and I know that a 2-1 odds on 2-1, 68-32 on Tapology. I'm gonna go with Merab and just be a little bit of a contrarian here. I'm starting with 2025. I'm gonna kind of, air it out a little bit when it comes to the picks. Just under 70% last year, but a lot of the time I'm just picking with the favorite, I feel like. And I want to go a little bit contrarian, especially when it's with guys that I've seen a lot of. And again, Merab traditionally has a really good chin. I think he's going to pressure Umar. I don't think Umar is going to be able to get off some of his patented offense and spinning kicks. And I think he's going to be on the back foot. I don't think he's going to be used to it. And I think the only thing that can beat a Dagestani wrestler is someone who has a Dagestani in a less than advantageous. They're not able to move forward. So give me Merab for the plus money. I wouldn't put that into a parlay. I'm not putting the house on it, but I think at plus 260, I really think this is maybe Umar minus 150. The fact that he's 350, I just can't go that far because you can't bet against a guy with the level of steroids, cardio, that Merab has. Like,
the lines certainly are predicated on name value because Vegas keeps in mind that not everybody is a UFC sharp the way that we are. And so, minus 350 is totally skewed. I feel like when you take it by decision, that's when it makes a lot more sense. I think that Ubar by decision is it's very like logical pick here. And I do see your logic about, I just think that when it comes down to it, right, you're going to have Merab shoot a takedown. He's not going to get it because the takedown defense is going to be way too good from Umar. And then you're going to see a situation where it's like a single leg and Merab is hanging on that leg and we're up against the fence and dancing around. And then next, positions are switched. For the next 4 minutes, it's Umar Nurmagomedov up against Merab at the cage. And it's all part of Abdul Manap's plan, bro. Abdul Manap taught all these guys how to do it. It's all his plan. It's his fight style. And unfortunately, at this point, after having watched the UFC for years and years and years, when your name is Nurmagomedov and you're in a title shot, and this is when have we seen them lose? These guys. When have we seen them?
True. That's true. Yeah. It's true.
That's just part of it for me. It was Abdul Manap's plan, and this is the next step. Speaking of Abdul Manap's plan and a guy who's been doing it, he fulfilled the plan, gave his belt off to his cousin Habib, Abdul Manap's son. That's Islam Makachev, and he's fighting Arman Tsarukyan this week. This one I have slightly closer feelings about than I do the last fight. The last fight I feel pretty dead set about Umar Nurmagomedov taking that belt, holding it for quite a long time. This one I feel differently about, and that's for a few reasons, right? I believe that Islam, either if he wins or he already is tied for UFC lightweight title fights, I don't know if he's going to be the guy to break that record. He's already talking about moving up to welterweight and potentially fighting Bilal Muhammad. And it's just a lot of talk about the future already. He wants to be a two-belt guy, and that's not the guy that you want to be when the guy that's in front of you is Arman Tsarukyan, who had a close fight with Islam Makachev the last time around and beat the snot out of Charles Oliveira, beat the snot out of Beneil Dariush, beat up guys that have similar fighting styles and gave a hard time. Well, I wouldn't say that Charles gave Islam a hard time outside of the first round, but guys that should give him a hard time on paper. Arman Tsarukyan has given them a very hard time. I think that Islam is still going to be too much for him, though. I think that his striking seems to get better and better with every fight. His wrestling game is impeccable and impregnable, and it's going to prove to be way too much for Arman Tsarukyan. There's going to be a lot of moments when I think it's going to be the opposite of the fight that we talked about previous, where Umar is reversing things. I think that you're going to see Islam on top, and there's going to be moments where Arman is going to go to do something, and we're going to be like, oh, there he goes. He's reversing it. And Islam is going to pull the hip out. Although it's tough because Dustin Poirier did pull a lot of reversals on Islam that did not work against Khabib and would not have worked against a lot of other guys. I just don't think that Islam's wrestling is as crisp as the other guys in the family. His striking is really good, but Arman is also really, really good. So part of me is leaning towards Arman, because of the striking, because of the grappling. I mean, this is a tough fight. This is a close, close one. And because I've gone pretty much all favorites on this whole card, I'm going to go with Arman Tsarukyan to snap Islam Makachev's winning streak. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it feels weird coming out of my mouth, but like, I think that Arman Tsarukyan might beat Islam Makachev. And I think that this is going to be one of those ones when it's like all favorites all the way throughout. And then the main event is the dog that wins. And yeah, I'm going to go with Arman Tsarukyan here. I'm going to go with Arman Tsarukyan. He's had such a fun career so far between like the bullying, the anti-bullying thing when he got the altercation with the guy in the crowd fighting against Charles Oliveira to another moment that cracks me up is when Ariel Helwani says to him like assalamu alaikum. Oh, don't you speak Arabic? And he's like, yes, even though Arman Tsarukyan is a Middle Eastern Christian. And he's just had like so many funny, memeable moments. Now, so is Islam Makachev. That's not like a reason for a guy to win, but it's tough. I mean, it's literally between does Islam go down as lightweight GOAT, right? Like he does have a chance to do that this week, or does Arman Tsarukyan snatch the belt? And to me, I just think that like Arman Tsarukyan is probably going to be the guy that stands in the way of Islam going down in GOAT conversation. I don't know if like it's just like Islam never struck me as that guy, and I think that like Arman Tsarukyan is going to be the one to put a halt to that this week. He's evenly matched. And what are the lines on this one? I can't clearly see it. It's
minus 410 for Makhachev, 320 coming back for Tsarukyan.
Yeah, plus 320 is enough for me to take this one straight and look at it and say, like, you know what? I'm willing to get behind Arman this week. I think you can get it done. I genuinely do. The striking, the wrestling, everything is like almost on par with Islam Makachev. And at worst case scenario for Arman, we see a fight that looks a lot like Islam versus Volkanovski 1. I really think that's like worst case scenario where it goes the distance and we're all like, this was way closer a fight than the judges' scorecards had it. And a lot of people will say that Arman won. Fight's going to go the distance. Parlay for the main event and the co-main, both fights to go the distance. I like that a lot. Not sure what the lines are, but I'm sure that Vegas is going to be toying with them a little bit. But I think that both fights to go the distance, and I think that Arman Tsarukyan could pull out a decision victory this week against Islam, if not a finish. I mean, Islam's never been finished, but Arman is...
He has. He got knocked out once.
Oh, yeah, he did. He got knocked out. That's his 1W. I mean, his 1L. So, yeah, there's a chance that Arman gets it done. And call that my sharp pick of the week. I'm going with Arman Tsarukyan. If not to win this one, then to lose by a very tight decision. I know that that doesn't do anything for you as a bettor, but that's how I think it's going to go down, is either a close decision or an Arman win. So I'm going with Arman Tsarukyan here. What do you think?
I don't think a decision win is going to go to Arman Tsarukyan, and I don't know that Islam Makachev gets finished by Arman. I don't know that he's going to get the opportunity to land a big overhand and knock him out. I don't know if there's going to be a submission. So I think the decision, if it's where I think this is going to land with Islam Makachev. He's a little bit bigger, you know what I mean? Now, here's the thing. Khabib, obviously maybe he's there, maybe he's not going to be there. I don't really know after the whole Frontier Airlines thing. Also, why are they flying Frontier? That's another thing. Arman Tsarukyan's dad is literally a billionaire, so he's doing this because he wants to, not because he has to. Although Islam Makachev, makes a lot of money in his own right. Neither of these guys needs the money, so they're doing this because they want to. One has legacy behind. One's been training forever. I mean, guys, both have been training forever. Arman's giving him really, really tough fights. He's the younger fighter here. This is theoretically, and if this was a movie where he comes back and he beats the guy that gave him a loss previously and all the blah, 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 blah. I just think if I'm thinking about this fight, they're very, evenly matched. I think 320 and 410 is egregious. I think this is minus 150, maybe minus 175 for Islam. And then, you're looking at plus 200. And even that feels crazy. It would be like a plus 200, plus 220. 320 for Tsarukyan is just discouraging me. 410 for Islam is discouraging me. So if I had to bet, I would probably go Tsarukyan, but I think Islam's going to win. So I don't know that I'd be willing to lay that amount of money on it. I think I would say I'm going to bet that this fight goes the distance, and I don't know what that's going to be, probably -5 or 6, but I still feel better at that than I do with Islam at -410 because it's so close. I don't think either of these guys are going to finish each other. So give me Islam, but if I'm betting, I'm going to go the distance or, over 4.5 rounds, something like that.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Just about to go the distance. And like I said, like I wasn't saying that like Arman would win a close decision. I think that like best case scenario for him in this fight is to lose a close decision. Like, I mean, not that that's the best case scenario, but if it goes to the judges' scorecards, that's probably how it's going to go. Is it going to be close enough that he could still pull out the W? We don't know.
If Islam wasn't the champion, I think I'd agree with you more. And I think that that's somewhere that I always pick from is who's the champion? Where is it? Both of these guys are foreign. Islam's going to be more recognizable. I think, he's going to win. If it's a neutral round, I think people are just going to give it to the champion anyway. So
for the distance,
they are, breathing fire fumes, remember?
Yeah, that's true. Will fight go the distance? So for Islam versus Arman Tsarukyan is -136 according to FanDuel. Yes, to go the distance. That's not a bad bet at all. To not
take -136 versus Islam for 410.
Right now, if you think the one before that is going to go the distance, that's -215. You parlay the two. Let's see. Will fight go the distance? That comes out to +154. That's still not bad at all. And if you have any profit boosts or anything like that, that's a great parlay. Please bet responsibly. Don't sue us if it doesn't go your way. But I think that both of those, the co-main and the main event, both go the distance. So I like that a lot. It's a nice little parlay. And but I know that if you take Arman and Merab, that's got to be something crazy, right? Let's see. Arman Tsarukyan +300, Merab Dvalishvili +240. That's a +1260 parlay. If you feel good about those two guys, that's a lot of money. That's $10 to win 126 and $100 to win 1,260. So if you feel good about that, that might be the way that you want to lean if you like both of those dogs. I don't think it's going to go that way. Neither does Tom, obviously, but it could, right? But just something to keep an eye out on, if you're a parlay man and that's how you feel. If you're a straight bet man, I like Arman Tsarukyan straight, regardless of method, probably by decision. But I like Arman straight in this fight at +330. That's great odds in my opinion. I was about to say, with all that being said, let's put a bow on this thing.
Felt right.
Yeah, you beat me to it. All right. So going back to the prelims, I got Bernardo Sopaj over Ricky Tercios. I am going to go with Grant Dawson over Diego Ferreira. I know we didn't talk about that one. And also I'm taking Rinya Nakamura as well. Those are my prelim notables that we didn't talk about. I'm leaning towards Sergey Spivak over Jalton Almeida. That one, don't be surprised if that one goes either way. Peyton Talbot over Ioni Barcelos. Scroll on up. Let's see what else we got. Oh, and Bogdan Guskov over – I don't even know who he's fighting. I just like Bogdan Guskov quite a bit. Reiner de Ritter, RDR over Kevin Holland. Hanato Moicano over Benil Dariush. I'm sorry, Benny. Yuri Prohashka over Jamal Hill. And I'm taking Umar over Merab. For the money, I'm going to go with Arman Tsarukyan over Islam Makachev, although, it's more than likely that Islam retains. What do you think, Tom?
We deviated quite a bit on the main card prelims. We are pretty much all aligned. Sopaj over Tercios. You're going Dawson over Ferreira. I don't know that I am. I'm a little skeptical. We'll see what happens there. Not going to bet it. Going to go Almeida over Spivak, Talbot over Barcelos, and Guskov over Elkanah. On the main card here, I'm going RDR over Kevin Holland. Hate to say it. Money Moicano over Benny. Give me Jamal over Yuri. Give me Merab over Umar. And I'm going to stay safe with Islam over Arman on the main card in the main event.
That's juicy. We're already starting the first pay-per-view of the year, diverting. So we'll see what our records look like, right? I was 7-2. You were 6-3. We'll see how they look going into next week. One of us is going to be the high man on the totem pole, and the other one might be pretty low. depending on how these prelims work out. But with that being said, please like, comment, subscribe. I'm disappointed nobody jumped in the chat. Hopefully somebody liked this video and subscribed while you're in here. That would be very nice. I keep begging and pleading week after week. Just like advertised at the top of the screen right now on the Tapology screen is the movie Baby Girl. Don't make me beg for it. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. That's kind of a niche reference. That's a dirty movie. Take your girlfriend to go see that. That's an interesting one. Anyways, yeah, like, comment, subscribe, follow us on Spotify, follow us on Instagram and X @_pickinwinners and @pickinkeith, @pickinfightstom. Did I miss anything? Yeah, leave us a comment. Let us know what you think.
Spotify, link is in the description. Yeah, I'm excited for the fights. Hope everybody bets responsibly. And yeah, most likely is you'll get some right. I'll get some right. We'll come back probably, one or two off of each other. But hey, it'd be interesting if it sweeps or if either of us sweeps. We got a good amount of underdogs on either side. So whether it's Arman or Marab or Jamal, it's going to be interesting. So hopefully something happens. And again, if it does happen in Los Angeles, don't underestimate, what can happen to the brain after inhaling some fire smoke. So
yeah, let us know whose picks you're going to go with in the comments too. If you're watching this whole point, yeah, let us know like who you're going with. Like if Tom sold you better, if I sold you better, if you're splitting between the two of us. And then also if you are in Los Angeles or you're going to watch these fights, please stay safe and take care of your family and just take care. That's number one. Take care. Be safe.